Russia is attacking civilian buses, innocent civilians continue to die in Ukraine, and Trump seems ready to negotiate with Russia, again without Ukraine's participation. In this regard, Volodymyr Zelenskyy has commented on this news quite decisively.
Any decisions that are without Ukraine are the same decisions against peace.
I'm Albina Pidhirnyak, bringing you news from Ukraine and the world. The day before, the Russians hit a bus in Kherson. The occupiers simply touched a bus with civilians with a drone. As a result, 2 people were killed, other passengers were injured to varying degrees. A total of 16 people were injured, 6 were hospitalized. Drones have flown into Tatarstan, Russia, and struck a drone assembly plant. This is an important facility in Russia's military-industrial complex. The extent of the damage is currently being determined.
Смотри.
The meeting between Putin and Trump will take place. They will meet in Alaska and talk about the Russian-Ukraine war. Trump wrote about this on his social network Truth Social.
The highly anticipated meeting between myself, as President of the United States of America, and President Vladimir Putin of Russia, will take place next Friday, August 15th, 2025, in the great state of Alaska. Further details to follow. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
The Russian side not only confirmed that it supports the meeting in Alaska, Putin's henchman Ushakov said that the next meeting allegedly should take place in Russia and that Trump has already allegedly been given the appropriate invitation.
The American side has just announced an agreement to organize a meeting between the presidents of Russia and the United States, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, on August 15th, this Friday, in Alaska. Russia and the United States, close neighbors, border each other. And it seems quite logical that our delegation simply flew across the Bering Strait, and that it was in Alaska that such an important and anticipated summit of the leaders of the two countries was held. By the way, the economic interests of our countries intersect in Alaska and the Arctic, and there are prospects for the implementation of large-scale and mutually beneficial projects. But of course, the presidents themselves will undoubtedly focus on discussing options for achieving a long-term peaceful resolution of the Ukrainian crisis. If we look ahead, then of course we should focus on holding the next meeting between Presidents Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump on Russian territory. The corresponding invitation to the President of the United States has already been handed over. In conclusion, I would like to note that in the coming days, Moscow and Washington, of course, will devote themselves to the most active and intensive study of the practical and political parameters of the summit meeting in Alaska. And this will apparently be a difficult process, but we will be actively and intensively engaged in this, as I have already said.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has already reacted to Trump's initiative to meet with Putin without Ukraine's participation and even in Alaska. You know, it's a very simple story. All decisions from the Ukrainian side are already enshrined in our constitution. All decisions that will made between Trump and Putin are their bilateral relations. The issue of the war in Ukraine can only be resolved with the presence of the Ukrainian side.
Dear Ukrainians, President Trump announced the preparation of his meeting with Putin in Alaska. Very far from this war that continues on our land against our people, which still cannot be ended without us, without Ukraine. Putin did not believe in our people, so he praised his hopeless decision to try to take Ukraine. This was his main mistake, not to pay attention to Ukrainians. I believed in our people, because Ukrainians are strong, Ukrainians defend theirs. Many in the world sided with Ukraine during the war. Even those who are with Russia know that it is doing evil. Of course, we will not give Russia rewards for what it has done. The Ukrainian people deserve peace, but all partners must understand what a decent peace is. This war must end, and Russia must end it. Russia started it and is dragging it out, without listening to any deadlines. And that's exactly the problem, not something else. The answer to the Ukrainian territorial question is already in the constitution of Ukraine. No one will and will not be able to deviate from this. Ukrainians will not give their land to the occupier. Ukraine is ready for real solutions that can bring peace. Any decisions that are against us, any decisions that are without Ukraine, they are at the same time decisions against peace. They will not give anything. These are dead decisions. They will never work. And we all need a real, living peace that people will respect. We are ready, together with President Trump, together with all our partners, to work for real and, most importantly, lasting peace. Peace, which will not fall apart because of Moscow's desire. I thank all our people for being together. Ukraine exists. I thank all our soldiers for preserving our independence. Stand firm. This is our land. We are Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine.
Armenia and Azerbaijan have signed a historical agreement. Reuters reports that Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev and Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan have signed a declaration to end hostilities. This was announced by US President Donald Trump, who held talks with both leaders at the White House on August 8. Trump also added that Washington is signing a bilateral agreement with both countries to expand cooperations in the fields of energy, trade and technology. The US is also lifting restrictions on military cooperation with Azerbaijan.
For more than 35 years, Armenia and Azerbaijan have fought a bitter conflict that resulted in tremendous suffering for both nations. They suffered gravely for so many years. Many tried to find a resolution, including the European Union. The Russians worked very hard on it, never happened. Sleepy Joe Biden tried, but you know what happened there. He tried for probably 12 minutes and didn't work out. And many other countries tried, and they were unsuccessful. But with this accord, we've finally succeeded in making peace, and we just left the Oval Office where we signed voluminous documents and very important elements to the agreement. The country of Armenia and Azerbaijan are committing to stop all fighting forever, open up commerce, travel, and diplomatic relations, and respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity, so importantly. And I just spent a lot of time with these two men. I think they're going to have a great relationship. You want to know the truth? They didn't see each other that much, but they probably will. I think they're going to have. I think you two are going to have a great relationship. I have no doubt. And if you don't, call me and I'll straighten it out. Okay.
Following the signing of the agreement, the three presidents held a joint press conference. During this press conference, Donald Trump stated that Russia is suffering huge losses in Ukraine. Trump also added that a peace agreement is quite close and he's going to meet with Putin in the near future.
Well, I think it's that one is, as you know, we've been working on a lot of these deals. We've closed every single one of them all throughout the world, and that's the last of them. And they're losing, Peter, about 6, maybe even 7,000 soldiers every single week. Russia, as you know, lost almost 25,000 over the last month and a half, and Ukraine lost just a small number, fewer. It's a lot of people are dying, and I think we're getting very close. And we're going to be announcing later on. We're going to have a meeting with Russia. We'll start off with Russia, and we'll announce a location. I think the location will be a very popular one for a lot of reasons. But we'll be announcing that a little bit later. I just don't want to do it now because of the importance of what we just did.
And I completely understand that. Just a follow-up. Are you surprised that Zelensky hasn't figured out by now, in years of war, how to deal with you and to deal with Putin without needing permission to make concessions from his parliament or from a national referendum?
Well, he's going out and getting what he needs. You know, he's not authorized to do certain things. I said, well, you're going to have to get it fast because, you know, we're getting very close to a deal. And he's doing that, and he's working with the European nations, and they're terrific people, terrific leaders, NATO. And as you know, I became very friendly with them. They agreed to go from 2% to 5%, 2% that they didn't pay to 5% that they've already paid. It's trillions of dollars. So, you know, we're working together very closely. But no, in all fairness to President Zelensky, he's getting everything he needs to assuming we get something done. But I'll be meeting very shortly with President Putin. It would have been sooner, but I guess there's security arrangements that, unfortunately, people have to make. Otherwise, I'd do it much quicker. He would too. He'd like to meet as soon as possible. I agree with it. But we'll be announcing that very shortly, okay? And location.
Regarding the settlement of the Russian-Ukraine war, Trump noted that he would not use the term last chance for a settlement in relation to Putin. And Trump traditionally added that if he had been president, nothing like this would have happened and that this is Biden's war. Trump emphasized that the United States is not spending anything on this war now, but it must be stopped.
I don't like using the term last chance. Look, it's, you know, look, this is two very, very smart people. They've been going at it and their predecessors also very smart. They've been going at it for 35 years. It's tough. And, you know, when those guns start going off, it's awfully tough to get them to stop. It really does. It's a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president. There was no reason for it. So many people are killed, so much cultural destruction. You look at those magnificent towers, the most beautiful in the world. You know, the spires were considered the most beautiful in the world. They're all in 1 million pieces, laying on the ground, all obliterated, knocked into 1 million pieces. So sad. But millions of people have died, and very, very much set in their ways. A lot of people were set in their ways, but I think we're getting close. I mean, this was not my war. This was Biden's war. But the European Union has been great. As you know, they're purchasing equipment from us. They have a lot of money, and they're spending a lot of money on buying equipment. We're not spending money, but we are supplying them equipment. They're paying for it. And I think, you know, I think that a lot of things happened recently that would make this go forward. I'm not going to mention anything having to do with India, but maybe that had an impact. But what really had an impact was NATO has stepped up in terms of their spending on buying military equipment. You know, we're in for, probably through Biden and his people, $350 billion. $350 billion. When they hear these numbers, you're saying, that's a lot of money. $350 billion the United States has spent on that. It should have spent nothing because it should have never happened. It would have never happened. And Europe is in for over $100 billion, which is, it should be the opposite. If we were in for anything, but it should be the opposite. And I will say that Europe wants to see peace. The European leaders want to see peace. President Putin, I believe, wants to see peace, and Zelensky wants to see peace. Now, President Zelensky has to get all of his everything he needs because he's going to have to get ready to sign something, and I think he is working hard to get that done.
Dear viewers, thank you for watching this video. Give it a like and leave your comment. I'll be grateful for your activity and communication. Take care. See you soon.